All right, everybody. Welcome to the 3 of 7 podcast. We got some really cool guests on for you today. I know a lot of you guys like these full-length interview podcasts. I like them too, so it's very special. Thank you, Glenn, for being here, and Laura, thank you for being here. And we've got Biscuit on the mic. What's up, Biscuit?
Hey, guys.
And we got Blake.
Blake is going to, me and Blake are sharing a mic, so if you hear and then Blake starts talking, you know I just swung it over there.
I thought Blake was the audience. We have a one-person audience in here.
That's a first.
Yeah, it's our first audience. So, super pumped. Glenn, man, you guys went and PT'd this morning, right?
We did.
So is CrossFit like y'all's thing?
Yeah.
Do we have a runner in the house, Laura, or...
I run, but I wouldn't call myself a runner.
She's really good at that part.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, when did y'all get into CrossFit?
So I was actually talking with a buddy of mine that we started with, and it was October of 2008. So we've been doing it. I've been doing it for a really, really long time. And,
This wasn't Jeff, was it?
This was not Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah. So a group of us, Jimmy Smith is one of them that works out with
love
us
Jimmy.
now. Jimmy picked it up, and so Jimmy Smith, Bill Pardue, a guy named Chad Warner, who was a basketball coach at Shorter at the time, and a couple other guys we would go into Shorter's basketball gym in their weight room, and we started doing CrossFit. Mm-hmm. And then we just picked it up, got some other folks involved, and in 2011, we started the first CrossFit box in Rome, which was CrossFit UCS when I was a headmaster there. And it just kind of birthed. I hired Jeff. Our friendship happened, and here we are. Now how many years later?
Yeah.
Still doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've seen the sport, if you want to call CrossFit a sport, you guys have seen it change a lot. Because I heard when CrossFit first started, it was like a really almost like grungy, people were doing it in their garages and just finding open space to do it. And now it's become a legit corporate type entity, right?
Yeah.
So
it's changed so much. And the things that we like, it's now professional. Like a coach like Jeff comes in, he's got a master's degree in exercise physiology. Like everything we do now has intent and purpose. When we first started, our intent and purpose was to crush each other. It was just whatever we could do. We'd do a workout and say, that doesn't look hard enough. We'd add weight. We'd do anything. It didn't matter if it was your first time doing it or your 50th. You did everything that everybody did no matter what. And we ran a lot of people off from CrossFit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hardcore.
What resonated so much with you about that type of fitness? Like,
I'd been a football coach and a PE teacher and played Division III college football, and had always been interested in exercise and fitness. And when I started, when I became the headmaster at Unity Christian School, kind of took like 3 years off, just didn't do anything. And I had young kids, and got to the point where I was realizing like my priorities were out of whack, and I was doing a lot with the school, and I was chasing after the Lord, but my body was just falling apart. Mm-hmm. And so I started running, and just ran and probably ran 30 or 40 miles a week.
Wow.
For me was great. And then one day on a Sunday morning, some friends said, hey, let's meet before church, and we're going to go do a workout at Shorter. And I'd never even heard of CrossFit before, and really had said to them, like, I'll do one, but I'm never going to do it again. And the first workout was 10 rounds of 12 pull-ups and 12 burpees.
Oof.
And
I like
got
that.
Destroyed, ripped my hands, everything. And I looked at them, and I'm like, when are we doing it again? Like, there's something about the adrenaline that it created inside of me. I've never felt that before at that level. And I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah.
Never stopped. Yeah. It's been, and then we got Laura involved. I think she probably started about 3 years later when we started it at Unity Christian School.
Well, that's all he ever talked about. So I'm like, if I'm going to have conversation with my husband, I'm going to have to start doing this.
Mm-hmm. Same with me and running. Exact same. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's what I was about to transition and ask Laura, what the world, man, because I've been watching you in the gym for about the last 2 years, and you get in there and get slap after it.
In the zone.
Yeah, I mean, you're not in there to hang out and chit chat. You get in there and get slap after it. So what appeals to you about CrossFit?
I think that I'm just always busy. I'm always doing something. I can't just sit and do nothing. And I'm not close enough.
She's like, what?
Oh, we're gonna get her loud and clear now.
So what she likes about CrossFit is that there's not this in her face.
Yeah, so I feel like every minute I have is important, and I need to be making it worthwhile. So when I'm there, I mean, I know people probably think that I'm rude because I'm not stopping and talking, and it's usually because I've got something else on my mind that.
I thought you were rude for the longest time.
Shut up. No, you didn't.
It's all good. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm all right with it.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so when I'm there and I have that hour to work out, then I'm going to work out. So
It's been a great supplement. People always ask me about cross training because I'm primarily a runner. That's my thing. And everybody asks a question about cross training. And it is super important. I think that CrossFit has made me a better runner. As much crap as I intentionally talk about CrossFitters. You know why I talk crap about CrossFitters? Because it's really easy to get them riled up. They're really passionate about their form of exercise, and you can just poke them a little bit, and man, they really give you some good feedback. Yeah. I love it, man. Yeah. But it's been a great supplement to my running for sure. I want to dig in and just understand who you guys are. Where did you guys grow up, and how did you guys meet and begin this journey in life together?
Just fate, I guess.
She's thanking God every day. So I grew up in Massachusetts and moved to Rome in 1994 to work at Darlington School. And I worked there as a PE teacher and football coach after I got out of grad school. And really never thought I'd stay in Rome. Thought I'd be in, for a year or two and moved back to New England with my family. And that's really kind of what my plan was. And then in April of 1996, in my second year at Darlington, at the end of my second year, Laura and I got connected through just a mutual friend that we had. And so we started hanging out in that April and really started dating probably like a month later. And we've been together ever since. I was not a believer at that time, so that was an interesting time. I had some pretty challenging behaviors that I drank a lot, and that wasn't something that was part of her life. Laura was a believer, and so that was a interesting thing. At the time we met, I had stopped drinking for a little while just to kind of see if I could sober up, and was successful for about a month, which was just enough time to make Laura believe that I might be a nice guy. So
yeah, we say that he snowed me pretty good.
Snowed her pretty bad. Yeah. I didn't know that I was doing that, but I was. And so there was something that it was obvious and evident that there was something different about Laura that I had never experienced before. Mm-hmm. And so there was like this instant tension between the lifestyle I was living to the lifestyle that I was watching her live, and that internally I started to desire, but I didn't know how to say no to alcohol. And so the two of us battled a lot in that first 6 or 7 months.
Now, Laura, are you a Georgia girl?
No.
Okay.
I'm a Tennessee girl.
Tennessee. Oh man, I wish Chili was here right now. He would like hearing you say that. What brought you down to Georgia?
I'm a speech therapist, and so I went to the University of Tennessee. I got my bachelor's there, and I took a year off in between getting my bachelor's and master's. Came and worked in Rome, and that year that I was here is when I met Glenn. I was going back to graduate school at Tennessee 3 weeks later, I think, and I met Glenn. And so we dated the whole time when I was in graduate school there. And then 3 weeks after I graduated, we got married, and I moved back to Rome. So here I am. Yeah. Both of my kids at University of Georgia. And I still have orange blood, but...
Oh, Lord.
What can you do?
That's a football reference, right?
She won't buy anything that says UGA or Georgia on it. She'll buy Athens, or she'll mention the city, but
y'all dang Tennesseans are almost as bad as Texans. Almost.
Yeah.
With their sports?
with their sports and this the pride in where they came from.
Yeah.
I see that a lot.
She has that.
Yeah.
I got it.
So I have to ask, going back to Glenn's conversation, how was it dating and being married to a heathen? And how did you convince him, or did you convince him? How did that go? For Glenn to finally see who Christ was.
Well, so what happened? He was kind of not being so nice to me. I mean, he's a nice guy just in general, but he was not treating me the way that I wanted to be treated. And so I guess I was nagging him about it, and he got tired of hearing it, and so we broke up. But instead of us breaking up, he said, I just need some time. And for a girl, those words are just enough to keep you hanging on a little bit. And so, so during that time, we weren't talking, and, I was all feeling sorry for myself. And then I just started thinking, I don't know, one of my friends said, it's not that he's not treating you the way that you want to be treated. He's not a Christian. He doesn't know how to love you because God is love and he doesn't have God. And I was like, okay, so instead of feeling sorry for myself, I'm going to pray for his salvation. And so, in my head, I don't know what I need time means. I don't know. Does that mean we'll eventually get back together? Does that mean we're done? I don't know. But in the meantime, I just started praying for his salvation. And so, you want to tell the next part?
Yeah. So,
Well, I want to, before I hear that, we just recorded a podcast before you came in, and we talked about, is it worthwhile to pray for someone who is lost or who doesn't know Christ, right? Essentially, is it worth your while to beg Christ to reveal himself to someone that doesn't have that in their life, right? And so here, I think we're about to hear another testimony that it is worthwhile. As a matter of fact, I think I said on the last podcast, if you ever sit down to pray at night and everything's going good and you just can't think of anything that you need, pray for someone that does have a need, because it's about the most worthwhile thing that you can do with that time that you've set aside to pray to God. So I love that, man.
Yeah. So during that time, I was working at Darlington, and one of my duties was on that weekend, I had to take kids to church. So I went to First Presbyterian Church, and I sat in the balcony with a bunch of dorm kids from Darlington. And I can remember the student that I was sitting next to, and Dr. Flanagan was preaching, and for whatever reason, I didn't know that I needed the Lord, but that I've just heard a message about Jesus that I'd never, I felt like he was talking to me about the Lord. And so I went back to my apartment on campus, and I was just like, man, something's different. That message just never went away from me. So the next Sunday, we were still not talking, because for me, when I said I needed time off, I was really kind of breaking up with her and just seeing, but I didn't have the courage to just say we're done.
Coward way.
Yeah, I was a coward, absolute coward. And I knew the minute I hung up the phone when I told her I needed time off, I can remember crying, sitting on my little futon that I had in my apartment, just crying, saying, man, that was the stupidest thing you've ever done. But my pride was way too high for me to say, well, just call her back and ask for her back. I was like, time will be good. I'll handle it. And so anyway, go to church that Sunday, feel something different, go back the next Sunday on my own. I'm like, I'm going to go sit in that same seat. I'm going to just hear if this message is the same. And of course, he preached a different sermon, but I felt the same draw. Man, something's different. And so that Sunday I went back to my apartment, and I remember laying on the futon, I never prayed anything other than the Lord's Prayer, just casually. And I remember praying, God, if you just give me the courage to call her, just give me the courage to do that. I don't even know if I was going to say, I'll follow you. I didn't even know what I would say. And literally while I was praying, the phone rang, and it was Laura. And the first words out of her mouth were not, hey, baby. She was like, your time is up. You're going to tell me right now. I want to hear the words, and I want you to say, we're done. And I was like, I don't want to do anything like that. I want to be together with you. I made a colossal mistake. Will you please take me back?
That's
And,
crazy.
yeah. And so,
Yeah, I just needed the closure.
yeah, she was wanting closure, and I was just like, I mean, so literally in the midst of that prayer, and I never got the rest of that. Like, I never prayed anymore about that. And then I would say so that was in like mid-November of 1996. In early December, I don't have a date or anything like that, but I can remember I was laying in my bed one morning in my apartment. We were now talking. We hadn't seen each other yet. And I woke up to what I felt like was the audible voice of God or something saying, "You're going to follow Jesus." And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And I kind of just listened. I was saying to myself, what just happened? And I heard a voice again just say, "You're going to follow Jesus." And I just instinctively said, I'll follow. And I remember getting in the shower and getting ready for work thinking, what just happened? Like, I don't feel the same anymore. I went to my office. I went to work. One of my best friends that I'm still brothers with to this day. And I said, "Hey man, I had this experience this morning. Like, can you help me think through this?" I knew he was a Christian. And he was like, "Well, brother, I believe you became a Christian this morning." And like, my life has never been the same. The trajectory of my life it's never gone backwards in the way that it was. And so like my life became ministry at that moment, whether I was in ministry or not. Everything I did from that moment on. Now I've had my battles and we've had our battles, and I had to manage the struggle with alcohol, but yeah, so I became a Christian at that time, and
Yeah, and then we got engaged during that time and got married. So to answer your question, we never were married where he wasn't a Christian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thankfully all that worked out before we got married.
Did you see that shift in Glenn?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that was visible to
Yes.
you. Yeah.
Like when I would say I didn't like the way he treated me. I mean, he would say things to me like he would walk way ahead of me. I mean, it's silly stuff, but he would walk way ahead of me. And I would be, and I have short legs, and I'd be behind him, and I'm like, wait on me. And he's like, "If you're going to walk with me, you're going to have to speed up."
can't even believe it.
And so, I'm like, well,
so embarrassing.
that's hurtful. Yeah. So, but anyway, after that, he just, I mean, if you know him now, that's not him at all.
Glenn, don't be embarrassed. I used to do the same thing, and I still to this day catch myself doing the same thing.
Like if I catch myself doing it, I'm just like, all right, go back and hold her hand. Like just walk with her. Like this is what you love about life.
Yeah, man.
And I can't wait to hear, like, we're building up to a big battle that you guys are facing right now. And I'm listening to all of this just thinking, like, I wonder how important that is, what we're talking about now. Like, has it become more important? We'll get to it.
Well, I too love the part of Glenn's testimony where, like, he said the Holy Spirit was basically calling out and saying, "You are going to follow Christ." He didn't have some thought of like, "Oh, you're going to start reading the Bible more. You're going to start not drinking as much. You're going to start whatever the act was that you thought might have been holding you back, or the world might have been." It was a simple call. No, you're going to follow him. Right?
Yep.
And then all those other things will just fall into place eventually, right? Yeah. Because that's what Christ called everyone in Scripture. When he approached a disciple, let's say Matthew, he approaches a tax collector that is just hated by everyone. Mm-hmm. And what does he say? He doesn't say, "You better clean up your act." And he just says, "Follow me," as the exact design. So,
yeah. And I wholeheartedly believe that was as a result of my prayers for him when the Lord said, "Pray for his salvation."
Yeah.
Because we had many fights where he would say, "I'm not going to be the choir boy you want."
Those exact words. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now he's in here wearing a shirt that says "Pray" on the front.
I can't sing though. I'm not in the choir. Yeah. I'll never be the choir boy, but
Blake, did you have something? Okay. I saw you get your pen and paper out.
After this season, how was life? How was marriage? How was the kids? And what was,
I'm sure it was real easy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's a broad question, Biscuit.
I'm
yeah.
so anxious to move to the main reason they're here because I have a lot of questions, and this is just me being.
Well, go ahead, boo boo. You're the podcast co-host. The listeners love when Biscuit's on the podcast, by the way, because I can just sit here and just sit here and talk all day long.
You're not capable of that. Oh, you can. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Biscuit, she likes to get down to business.
Yeah.
So I would love to know, like, I want to transition into what season were you guys in with your first diagnosis? And like from the beginning, how did you find out and what was that like with the family and with your marriage?
And I would also like to hear the answer to that. And also for the listeners, what was the first diagnosis you're talking about?
I want her to say it. I don't want to say it.
Okay.
Sorry.
My turn to talk. Okay. So my diagnosis is GBM, which stands for glioblastoma multiforme, which is a type of brain cancer, and probably the worst brain cancer diagnosis you can have. I was diagnosed in August of 2020. I am 49 years old right now, so I was 48 when I was diagnosed. I would say, as everybody always wants to know how I found out what my symptoms were. It's pretty funny because now it's funny, but when things were happening, I wrote everything off. I mean, I was like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with me. But now the point that I'm at, any little thing that happens, I'm like, oh my gosh, is that a brain tumor? Is it back? But so as far as symptoms go, I would say I was, okay, sorry. Like I couldn't type. Whenever I would start typing, the words what was coming up on the screen did not look like at all what I'd typed. And I shared a room at work with somebody else, and I was like, I cannot type. I don't know what my deal is. I've been typing since I was 16 years old. And then my texting was terrible. You know, my kids were like, Mom, what are you trying to say? And I'm like, I mean, what's the problem? I was folding laundry, and so I'd try to get the towels to come into the middle, and they wouldn't meet. It was like I couldn't figure it out. Or T-shirts, to fold a T-shirt. It just blew my mind. We had been I think the first time that I realized something was wrong was when we'd gone to Daytona for a CrossFit competition, and I had gotten this new backpack, and the straps on it to put it on my back, I could not figure out how to make it work. I had to get my daughter to help me the whole time. We were at the airport, and I had to put in my credit card to pay, and I could not get it to go in the right way. I just couldn't figure it out. My daughter and I had gone through a drive-through, and yes, it was Taco Bell because that's my favorite. Don't judge me.
At least it wasn't Bojangles.
That's
I
true.
like Bojangles too. But anyway,
Oh my gosh.
I really want a shirt that says Body by Taco Bell. That's like my dream. But when we went through the drive-through, my daughter Ellie, she said, Mom, you're up on the curb. And I was like, just blaming it on the design of the drive-through. I'm like, well, it's really tight. You know, I just totally had an excuse for everything. I never really thought that anything was wrong with me. Now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a red flag. And like walking around a corner, I would always hit my left side on the wall. I look back in my journal, and in May, I wrote, it was one sentence, and it said, weird things happening on my left side. And during COVID, I work in a school system, and we were closed, but I was still having to do speech therapy over the computer. And I remember sitting at my table, and I just felt like I had spider webs or something on my left side. Like I just kept pulling it. I'm like, there's nothing there. And then I think one morning I told Glenn, I said, I keep putting my shirt on backwards. And he was like, okay, that's not normal. All these other things I've kind of justified. I'd even mentioned to my doctor, I'd gone for just a yearly checkup for my insurance stuff. And I said, look, you don't have to write any of this down, but I just want to tell you, I kind of got these spider webby feeling things. And he was like, okay. And he's like, do you have any neck problems? And I said, yeah, I keep a knot in my neck. I'm always stressed out. And he was like, okay, well, just keep an eye on it. And if it's, if it gets worse, we might need to do some kind of test to see if it's like a pinched nerve or something. And so I even made the joke. I said, we're not thinking brain tumor or anything, are we? And he's like, oh, no. And he said, just remember, bad things get worse. And I was like, okay, I don't know how that's supposed to make me feel. And so turns out bad things do get worse. And so when I told Glenn about the shirt, he was like, okay, we might need to do something about this. And so we called a friend of ours from the gym. You know, he's kind of like our doctor person that we call for everything.
That's a great thing about our gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was supposed to say names or not, so
That's up to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So Glenn called him, told him some of the things that I was feeling, and he said, yeah, we might need to get it looked at. And I don't know what he was thinking at the time. You can probably, I don't know what he thought, but he's like, yeah, let's just get it looked at. So it was the first day of school with the kids, that the kids had come, like not my personal kids, but the kids at the school I work at. It was the first day, and I had an appointment at, I think it was at like 5 o'clock or something. I don't know why it was so late. I don't know if it's because they had just fit me in or what. So I went in for a CT scan, and I walk in, and I get it done, and the lady says, so have you ever had a scan of your head before? And I said, no. And she's like, okay. And then they do the scan, and they get done, and she says, okay, so you've never had a scan done on your head? I said, no. And then she's like, okay, well, just go have a seat back in the waiting room, and we'll have the radiologist read it, and we'll come back and get you. And so in the meantime, like, I'm really thinking nothing. I'm just oblivious. And so Glenn is texting me, and he's saying, where are you? Why are you not at the gym yet? And I'm like, I'm still waiting. And so at this point, everybody is everything's closed. Like the waiting room area is closed. Everybody's gone. The receptionists are gone. The people are there cleaning with their little carts, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just waiting. And I literally didn't think anything was wrong. I thought, yeah, they're just reading it, no big deal. And so somebody finally came back out, and I went and asked them. I was like, okay, I'm waiting. They told me to wait out here for a little while, and they said, oh, hold on. They went to the back. It just kept taking forever and ever and ever. And then finally this lady comes out, and she said, Miss Getchell, can you come back here with us to this, I think she said dark room or something, which to me does not even make sense why she would have said that. And if she's listening, I'd like to tell her not to say that to people. But,
That's good feedback.
Yeah. So at this point still, I'm not thinking brain tumor. I mean, I'm thinking, what the heck? Okay. No, I don't know. So I go back, and she says, well, the doctors have seen something on your scan. They think you need to go to the emergency room. Do you want to go to Redmond or Floyd? Those are the words that were delivered to me.
Nothing. They didn't give you
Nothing.
anything.
Nothing. So I have no idea what's going on. They've seen something. Well, what does that mean? Am I
Right.
about to stroke out? I mean, I have no idea what that meant. So I think, I'd like to phone a friend. So I asked her if I could call somebody, and she's like, yeah. And of course, you know, they were wanting to close things down. At this time, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock. I've not talked to Glenn, but if I need to go to the emergency room, I don't know where I need to go. And so I called my friend from the gym, and I said, this is what they've told me. And he says, okay, well, give me just a minute. Let me make some phone calls, and I'll call you back. So I'm sitting there with that lady, just me and her. I don't feel like I can call Glenn because I don't have any information to tell him. I don't want to get him freaked out. And
Right.
He's already freaked out.
I have no information. I have no information. And so I just sit there and I wait and wait for my friend to call me back. And the lady's like, well, where do you want to go? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm waiting. I don't know where to go. And so he calls me back, and his words were, I've talked to the radiologist, and we have some things we need to deal with. And I'm like, okay. And he says, you have a 5-centimeter mass on your right parietal lobe. And you, we think that you need to go to Redmond. And so I say, okay. You know, I have just enough information, and I'm like, okay, I'll take what little information I have, and I'll go to Redmond. So I get in my car, and I have no clue what I'm feeling. Like, I'm just like, I don't have enough information to melt down yet. I don't know what I'm dealing with. I don't know. I'm just taking one step at a time. So I drive myself to Redmond, and then at this time with COVID, you can't just walk in. So they have like a little kiosk of, you know, a little person standing out by the door, and he's like, you just check yourself in. And so he says, well, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, what am I doing here? I don't even know. What do you say? I mean, at this point, they have not said tumor. They've said mass. I mean, I don't know. Is that the same thing? I have no idea. So, so he says, what are you here for? And I'm like, well, they sent me from Harbin and told me that I have a mass on my brain. And he's like, okay. So I don't know if they've sent my stuff from Harbin yet. I have no clue. I'm just walking into an emergency room by myself with a tiny bit of information. And so they take me in. They sit me down on this little couch. They start taking blood work. And at this point, so, you know, it's all wearing the mask. And so at that point, I was so thankful that I had my mask on, because I think that I was in shock. Like, my body just started shaking like uncontrollably, and I just start bawling. I think I'm just like so much in shock. My body does not know what to do. I don't, you know, I have my limited information, and it was a lot to process.
Yeah, that had to be a scary evening.
And you're still by yourself at this
Yes.
moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So then we can say what Glenn was doing on his end.
So, like, a lot of people have said, well, why didn't you go do that CT scan with her? And the reality of it is, of course, I asked her and told her I would be, I do everything. We kind of do everything together. So I typically would have gone, but we just did not think it was a big deal. We literally thought she had a pinched nerve in her neck, and that was causing all the symptoms. And I work at Berry, and I can remember driving by Harbin and just like saying a little prayer, like, oh yeah, my wife's in there. I'm going to meet her at the gym. My son was getting ready to leave for college, go back to school. So we were kind of getting one last workout in together. But like, as time was going, as I was driving over to the gym from Berry, I kind of just had a sense, like, too much time has gone by for this to just be nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but my instincts were telling me this isn't good. And so I go in the gym. Our doctor friend is in there, and he's working out. And I kind of make eye contact with him, but I'm like, well, if he's not coming up to me, then he doesn't know what's going on. I'm just going to ignore. I'm not going to let my own nerves impact me. And so I can remember I was warming up with Will. He was just sitting there. We were just talking. And at this point, he knows that Mom has getting a scan, but we hadn't even told our kids that something's wrong. We haven't said anything to our kids that she's even having this scan because we didn't think it was a big deal. And so Will and I are warming up, and I'm like, hey, yeah, your mom's, she's getting a scan. She's been having that problem with her hands, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's no problem, and I said, but, it hasn't hurt anything yet. I'm getting a little anxious. And in the meantime, I see Kelly outside.
Kelly's our doctor
friend on his phone pacing. And I'm like, that's not good. Like, I just knew. And so, I think at some point you did text me and say, hey, they want me to go to Redmond or Floyd. Kelly's trying to figure it out. And so then I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I looked outside and I'm just watching, I'm watching Kelly pace back and forth on his phone. And I have seen him do that for 7 years, knowing when he's talking about something medical, like he's out on the phone pacing. So I came out the front door, looked to the right, and there he was. And he looked at me and I could just tell, like, this is not good. This is not good. And so he goes like, hey, let's just go for a walk. And it was just, so I walked down to the end of the 100-meter mark, and we turned right towards the back trail. And I don't even know, I can't even now remember what he said. He's just like, there's a mass. He kind of gave me some typically, this is what we're dealing with. We got to get her to the doctor. We'll, over to the emergency room. She's on her way. I'm going to be with you every step of the way. And I at that point, I'm numb. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I know now what's going on. I know more than Laura does because he had just got off the phone with the radiologist. So now I'm thinking, oh gosh, I got to get to her. So I got to go in and tell Will, hold it together to tell my son, hey man, things, they found something with Mom. I gotta go to the hospital. And he's like, okay, all right, yeah, I'll stay here and do the workout. He's got like this incredible, like, his faith is unreal. Like he doesn't get rattled, and he didn't get rattled. He was just like, all right, we're going to be fine. We're good. I'll stay here and do the workout. You call me when you get there and we'll manage it. And so another one of our friends, Emily from the gym, she's like, I'll drive you. She's one of Laura's best friends. She walked through this whole thing with us. So she throws me in her car and we start driving to Redmond. And this is kind of funny, but we're driving to Redmond, which means you just go down to the end of the road, you take a right, and onto Broad Street, take a left onto East 2nd, and you're right at Redmond. Yeah. Somehow we end up going down Broad Street. We end up on Riverside Parkway. She's so rattled. I'm so rattled. I don't even know where we are. We're like, why are we going this way? She's like, I don't know. I'll get you there. I promise. So anyway, we get there, and Laura's in a room. I walk in, and they let me in the back, and Laura's in a room. And at that point, there's like 3 nurses, the ER doc, and we're waiting on a neurologist, and
so
she's,
and you had started shaking.
She
right?
is still in that, like, in shock. When I walked in, I was like, oh my gosh.
My body was just shaking uncontrollably. Wow. I'm sitting here noticing that I've started doing, like, not so bad, but I'm like, I don't know, kind of feeling all that again. But
is this the first time you've told this, like, to other people? Like
probably at this
maybe
level.
to this extent, probably.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Yeah, and I am so respectful of the courage that it takes for you guys to do this, and the value in this is to hopefully one day help someone who is going through a similar struggle. It will never be exactly the same as yours, but the value is, man, this is how they reacted. This is what they went through. This is how they were able to come out the other side of it. So it's just so valuable, and I respect the courage that you guys have. I just had to put that out there.
It's been a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's just now getting to the point where it's manageable. So when I was in the emergency room, the ER doctor that was in there came in, and, like, obviously I know this is major, but the ER doctor wanted to pray with me, which was wonderful. Looking back on it now, I'm like, okay, that red flag that this is really bad, because, you know, this is not just my gallbladder or something. You know, the fact that he was praying for me, I'm like, which is great, exactly what I needed, but red flag at how big this was. And then they said, okay, I mean, it was so fast after that. We had, they came and got me, took me for an MRI, did some more scans just to make sure that it wasn't other places in my body. So they were just trying to see if it was straight up brain cancer or was it cancer that had started somewhere else and had spread to my brain. And so I guess it was a good thing that it was straight up brain cancer, because I don't know. But then they said, we're sending in a neurologist. And so he came in and met with us after he had looked at the MRI. And, I mean, just the way that it all happened was just so God ordained, because I went back to my MRI, and it's just crazy how things just stay in your head. Like, I remember exactly what I was wearing when I went in there. You know, every year at my school, we get brand new T-shirts. And there was this one shirt that I loved. It's called Butter Yellow. And I loved
really
that
cute
shirt.
That day.
Well,
You looked really cute that day.
I loved it. I mean, I remember exactly what I had on. And, you know, now if anybody at school wears that shirt, I'm like, I mean, I just have flashbacks. But when I went into the MRI machine, there was a lady there who was running it. And I actually had served one of her children at my school. So it was a mom and that I knew. And she was just an angel that was sent. She was so calm and peaceful, and she just was perfect for what I needed right then. And then, so then the neurologist ends up coming in after he sees the results, and I remember like the elephant in the room being, is this cancer or is it not? And I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking, okay, the next step is brain surgery. I was not, I'm telling you, I know that it was God totally just, you know how people say God's not going to give you more than you can handle. I don't know if that's true or not. I believe that he gives you what you need at the right minute. And whatever you're carrying, if you can't carry it, he carries it for you. So, like, I could have looked at the big picture and thought, oh gosh, am I going to have to do chemo? What am I going to have to do? If I would have thought about all of that at that time, it would have crushed me. If I would have thought about every single thing, it would have crushed me. So instead, I think God said, okay, I'm going to put it on my shoulders. I'm going to go, and now you just deal with this, with what's in front of you right now. So I wasn't thinking cancer. It's almost like I was just kind of just sitting there, just watching everybody.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at Glen's face, asking the doctor, do you think it's cancer? Is there any way that is just a tumor, it's just a mass, and it's not cancer? And his face was like he was pleading with that doctor for him to give him some hope that it was not cancer. Mm-hmm. And I just remember looking at Glen, and I didn't have those feelings. I mean, it's like I really think that God he was carrying it for me and not allowing me to feel all of it, because it would have crushed me.
Yeah.
And so but I just remember watching Glen, and I remember the doctor, he never looked up. He looked down the whole time. And he said he never would say that there's not a chance it wasn't cancer. He didn't say it was, but he just said it looks very suspicious that it is cancer, but we won't know until we get the pathology reports. And so I was like, okay, well, so this was Thursday night. So so I said, all right, on Saturday, my son is moving into his apartment at Georgia, and I need to move him in. And the neurologist said, no. And I was like, yeah. So he was, I'm like, this is my life. This is what I'm going to do. And so, so he left, and he came back, and he said, okay, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to let you out of the hospital, because they admitted me that night. And he said, typically, I would keep you in the hospital because they were going to schedule the surgery for next Wednesday. So he said, typically, I would keep you in the hospital and prepare your body for surgery. And he said, but I'm a parent. I know that this is important to you. I'm going to let you out if you follow these guidelines. And I'm like, yes, sir. And so, so I got out and went home and moved Will in on Saturday. Is there anything you want to tell about any of that?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think that the biggest where Laura was being managed, like I felt like my role was to be like immediately I was in the big picture. Like Laura was in the God's going to take care of me every moment. And I felt like my role was that I now had not just Laura, but I had my kids. I had the, kind of like, I feel like I was on this massive runway and I had to land the plane. And I don't know when I'm going to land the plane. Like I still feel like I'm on that runway. And my job from that moment, the second that I heard any of this, it was just like, all right, you usher, like you're going to usher your wife through this process and you're going to usher your family through this process. And so for me, like I was asking those questions of the doctor, not because I needed to know like what was it going to be about my life, but I was trying to like gather as much information as I could so then I could process and say, all right, so this is what life is going to look like and this is how I'm going to lead my family during that time. And so it was like, as I was worried about her, like it was just more of those questions in that moment and watching Laura go through that. It was like, okay, this is my burden to carry. This isn't really her burden. This is my burden. Like as the husband, this is my role. This is what I've been created for this moment. And so I was in a instant, like big picture vision. How do we get through this? How do we manage it? What do we do to help her only have to stay in the day, every moment of every day? And so, yeah, that was my whole mindset was massive amount of information coming into my brain and then saying, what am I going to do with this? And how do I like help her in any way that I could?
So I think we have to talk about Ellie now.
Oh yeah,
because she will not be happy if we don't talk about her part in it. But so Ellie's our daughter, and she's
how old is Ellie?
She's 19 now.
Okay,
but my diagnosis came on her first day of her senior year in high school, and she's also dealing with one of her best friends who's battling stomach cancer at the time.
Same time,
and so. So she shows up because we were going to have this family workout before Will goes back to school, and she walks into the gym, and you were gone, right?
I had left.
And so she asked Will, where's Mom and Dad? And Will had to break it to her that I was at the hospital, and she's like, wait, what? She's like, I didn't even know anything was wrong with her. And so she was not very happy about that. But anyway, so what part? Were you going to ask me a question?
I have to say I have to point out the beautiful example of teamwork that you guys just discussed right there, because in any team at any time, there has to be someone that steps up to the plate and maintains that battlefield picture. I just think it's a testament to you as a leader of your family that you were prepared and you chose to step up and get, we call it the battlefield picture, right? And knowing that you now just became the manager of these pieces so that you can enable all of your teammates to do what they need to do in the moment to get the job done. And it's just a beautiful example of how a family has to function. And that person who has that battlefield picture, that can switch at different moments in time and different struggles, and it doesn't always have to be the same person. But it's just...
Speaking about teamwork, I feel like we have to mention another part of our family, which is Hamza.
Yeah.
So Hamza is our 26-year-old Palestinian who's been living with us since July of 2020.
So a month before this.
Yeah,
event.
a
I
month
didn't
before
realize
this
that.
happened. Yes. So I won't get... He's going to do a podcast with you one day so he can tell all his story. But
Yeah, he knows he has an open invitation.
Yeah.
he wants his English to get better.
Yeah, excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we tell him.
Yeah. But he's been like an angel for our family. He is the most incredible guy. And so, you know, his English was still limited when all this was going on. But it's almost like he stepped up to help us in any way he could. And just to keep us grounded, like his mindset, he knows hard things.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen hard things. And, just his ability to stay calm in it, to help keep me calm during all of it was just a godsend.
And how random is it that a month before you guys get the diagnosis, you have a Palestinian CrossFitter moving into, like, what? You know,
I know.
the odds are. But I wanted to ask you, like, so the weekend going into moving Will into college, what did him and Ellie know coming out of that weekend? Did they know anything more than...
No, at that point, we just knew that it was a mass and that I was having brain surgery on Wednesday.
And that was just a biopsy?
This was resection surgery, so that we were going in to try to take the mass out. Yeah.
So before even knowing whether it's cancer or not, they're like planning on removing it.
Right.
Yeah, it had to come out. It was growing, and so, yeah.
Yeah. And two, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the part of your story that you just told, and how everything about your life, your role, your responsibilities, your future literally got shifted in one evening. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the speed of it, because you just thinking about, and listening to you, Laura, and you saying, I'm going to do this scan, and then I'm in the emergency room. It's like, you don't expect that. You expect to go have a test done, you go back home, enjoy your evening, and then you have a follow-up appointment. And just that speed in the way you described it is I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So good on you guys. What a testament. I just can't say it enough. What a testament of the team you're surrounded by.
So
go ahead, baby.
Sorry, babe. So fast forward to surgery day, or the days leading up to, because how risky was the surgery?
Yeah.
What did they tell you guys?
I didn't ask a lot of questions.
It wasn't like I don't think we went into it. There was always like a natural thought of, well, she could die. Like, I mean, you're going into somebody's brain, something could go wrong. It was supposed to be interestingly, the surgery was on my birthday, the day that they had to do it. So that was interesting. And it's COVID. Mm-hmm. So the world is just shut down. The hospitals are like, it's crazy, but like the Lord had put people in our path. So we knew, the anesthesiologist at Redmond, that's one of Laura's best friends. The nurse anesthetist is another one of my best friends. So he was in the surgery with her.
That's nice.
The CEO of the hospital, his relationship with our doctor friend, like, so I got to be in the hospital waiting room. And then the lady that ran that waiting room was one of my friends from church. And I worked in the operating room for a little while, so I knew her really well. And they let Ellie come in. And then I had friends that work in the hospital that would come by. And so
the way I describe it is, I felt like the Lord had rolled out the red carpet for me when I got there, because people that we used to go to church with that I hadn't seen in years, standing there when the double doors opened, this girl standing there smiling at me. It's like they knew I was coming. It was like, I don't know. It just felt like God was welcoming me. And just to see one person after another that we knew that was coming in. And I mean, this is crazy, but this is what I hear about now. But there's pictures of it. But friends from the gym, they showed up with a fire truck. There was a fire truck at my surgery. And
there was a
there was a
tailgate
tent.
party,
It was
really.
like a tailgate party. People were sitting out there in their chairs and
They
just
brought
coming
food
by. And my friend Emily was there. She said, I felt like I needed to have a book for people to sign, like a receiving book. And just people that were coming by to check on me. And it's just crazy because I don't know. I don't think of myself as being important like that. And I don't know. But it was more that not how people in the world feel about me, but it's the way that I felt like God felt about me. Like he was saying, come in here, sister, I've got you. And I don't know. I still, when I think back to that day, I feel him when I think about it.
So were the nerves there, or was that kind of overshadowing?
I don't feel like I did. I felt like, okay, what's the next thing? It's like CrossFit. It's like you don't think about the fifth movement you're going to be doing. You think about the first, then you think about the second. You don't think about down the road. You just think, okay, I have to get through all of these movements, and then I'll move it on to this one. So I was just like, okay, let's go get this surgery done.
It's like you were on a mission almost.
Yeah.
You were surrounded by your platoon, and you were on a mission.
Yep.
And that's what I called them.
Oh,
And
man.
I was like, I felt like I had an army of warriors that were there
Wow,
to
man.
protect me.
I have to say, by the way, that didn't happen by accident. Obviously, the Lord had his hand on orchestrating that. But also that shows the investment that you guys made into your community,
Absolutely.
into your relationships, into your friendships, into people. While you had the capacity to do that, probably for decades, right? The Lord deals with me quite often on how I treat people and how I interact with my community, because it's easy. I'm in this position where I reach a lot of people, which takes away from how I pour into the people that are around me, right? It shouldn't, but it does. It's easy for me to get lost in, well, let's reach 100,000 or let's reach 1 million. But what about the people in my community? And that community and the way you're spending time and pouring into the people that are actually in your life, man, that can pay dividends. So you guys are making me think, because what a return on investment you guys got that day. So I don't know.
I was thinking, when you think about that, everybody has, like, at a moment, everybody has a role. Like, everybody has a purpose. Like, I think of you and I think, well, man, that guy can go run 100 miles. Like, I can't do that. I probably could if I change my whole lifestyle and just, that's what I want to focus on. But like, our whole life has been centered on like one relationship at a time, one moment at a time, one experience at a time. And so we've never, like, I think in big and I dream about big things and love having like big vision, but God, like, it's always like he brings us back to like an individual, a moment in time, a family, a person. And so we find ourselves a lot just in situations where, like, I would love to have the vision to build a ministry that reaches 1 million people. That would be awesome. But every time I think I'm supposed to do that, God's like, no, come on back here. Like, that guy right there, that Palestinian, who's going to love a Palestinian if you don't?
Right.
Who's going to love that person whose life is abhorrent to the Christian faith? But you will. So I want you to do that. Let somebody else manage all that other stuff. But I need you on the ground managing this one person at a time, one experience at a time. And so, like, no matter what I want, it's like God just smacks me back. Says, nope, get back where you're getting your lane, because that's where I need you to be.
And I would so argue, not to like compare and contrast at all, but I think that's almost more valuable than reaching millions on a surface level.
The point is that it is no less valuable.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reason we make this point is because so many people get discouraged, especially in ministry. when they're trying to share the gospel and they think, man, I'm just reaching one person or two or three people here, right? Yeah. They get so discouraged, right? But what you need to realize, if you're just reaching one or two people, you can have a deep and meaningful relationship, right? So don't get discouraged if that is what God has called you to do. Right. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't call you to stand in front of 10,000 people or have 100,000 Instagram followers. Maybe he calls you to focus on individual people that he has put in your path for a reason. That's the point in making this observation, I guess you'd say. I want to get back to you guys' story.
I'm staring at you like burning a hole through you while you're talking so much. I know. Like, let them finish.
Yeah.
Love you.
There's just a lot to be gleaned from even the conversation up to this point. So, trying to maximize it.
Yeah. I keep thinking, this is back a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like I need to say it. But so 12 years ago, Glen's best friend, Shane Richardson, passed away from cancer. And we've just learned a lot from that. And one of the major things that I learned during that time was I was at work when my friend Deanne, Shane's wife, called and told me that things weren't good. And I went into the bathroom at work, because where else do you go to have a meltdown when you can't go anywhere away from people? Is you go to the bathroom. So I went in the bathroom, and I remember crouching down and I rock when I'm freaking out. And so I was just rocking and saying, I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I heard God say, do this with me. And I've carried that for so long, and it gets me through so much. And the weekend that I moved Will into college, into his apartment, the rest of the family had gone off to get something, and I had stayed back, and I was trying to hang his shower curtain, and my left hand was not at all, it wasn't working with me. And I remember I couldn't get things to work out. It just wouldn't work out. And I remember just crying, saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Same voice said, do what you can. And so now I've got God telling me, do this with me. And now he's saying, do what you can. And I've got the rest. And so I just feel like that's so important, because now, I feel like I'm on a little scavenger hunt in life, and just the bits that I learn, I just pick up a little piece of information and I take it with me, from step to step to step. It's just what it's what I'm picking up and taking with me on my journey. But anyway, so we'll fast forward to surgery. So the surgery was supposed to be 4 hours, I think. It ended up being 7, because there was a big vein that was running through that he didn't expect, and he had to work around. And I guess I could have stroked out if things went bad. And so after that, everything went well. He said that it was a total gross resection.
Gross total resection.
Yeah.
Which means that at least 97% of the tumor.
98%.
Sorry. Yes, that 1% is important.
Yeah, it is. When you're talking about cancer cells.
Basically, any visible signs of the tumor were removed.
Okay.
This type of cancer, like they call it tentacles, like it has, like the style, I guess you could say, it has tentacles that go off into the other parts of the brain around the tumor. So you can't dig, because of the brain, you can't get margin on the tumor. Mm-hmm. So they have to get what they can see. So everything that he could see, like just painstakingly, like second by second, just picking that thing out, stood there for 7 hours and just worked around it. I was getting text messages from my friends in the operating room saying, this guy, like, it's unbelievable what he's doing, like the time he's spending, the attention to detail that he's putting in, which you would expect from everybody, but the fact that he just, like, it's feel like in a lot of ways God used him too to give us the time that we've had, because if he didn't get everything that he got, then it would just grow back. And so it's nice to, so gross total resection, 7 hours later.
And that was August 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I had to stay an extra day in the hospital because there were some bubbles or something, air bubbles on my brain. And so every morning I had to go in and have a MRI to make sure they were gone. But
I think you were out within 3 days, weren't you?
Yeah. And I kind of got in trouble by my doctor because the
physical therapist.
Again, so they would send a physical therapist in and to let me, get up and walk, and I felt good.
They'd wrap this belt around her waist and make her walk with it, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, what is this belt?" She's like, "Look what I can do."
Because you were doing CrossFit like the week before, right?
Yeah,
the
day before we found out she had the surgery, she was doing overhead squats. Like she was doing everything you can do. Like we don't have
I
a
really
problem.
felt fine except for that left
Yeah.
side, just the perception that I had. But anyway.
Yeah, so this is funny.
Oh, yeah. So
the physical therapist is in the room working with her, and
so I asked if I could do some air squats. And
less than 48 hours out of brain surgery.
And so I did a couple of air squats, and it felt fine. And they told my doctor that I was doing them. And so, so that wasn't
she
great.
also, in the operating room, or after the surgery, we're in the post-op area, and they let us come back there, and we're talking to her, and she's like, "I want to do a handstand push-up." The doctor
Probably not a good idea, Laura.
The doctor's like looking at me like, is she serious? And I'm like, well, she's under anesthesia, but she's like,
but she's also serious.
Yeah. You don't know how serious she is, and we get to that part of our story here at some point.
Yeah.
So she's asking the doc if she can do handstand push-ups already while she's just out of surgery.
Oh, that's great.
Made us know that her sense of humor and her mental faculties were all.
That's a great relief.
Yeah.
And keep going.
Well, so then I'll go to the next Tuesday. So this is just, surgery is on Wednesday. Tuesday, we had to go meet with the doctor for the pathology report. And I feel like you should cue the music to go, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
So that was a hard day. Again, I was nervous, but like you said, I was on a mission. It's like, okay, this is the next thing. It's like, all right, got through the surgery. Check. Next thing, pathology report. All right. So we go in. I'm totally expecting cancer. They have not given me any reason not to think that. And so we go in and we sit with the doctor, and he just flat out tells us that what kind it is, which is GBM. And so I don't really remember what else he said. I remember that I got to the point where I could finally ask him a timeline, because he wasn't talking about that. And so again, he just kind of looks down, but I needed to know. And and I don't know if you've read anything that I've written. I always stay away from the numbers. I don't talk about the numbers because the numbers get in my mind and they control me. Mm-hmm. And so I don't talk about them, but I feel like I probably need to say it now just so that people kind of understand. But he basically said 12 to 18 months. And as soon as he said it, my first thought was, I'm going to be a rose on a pew at my kids' weddings. That was my first thought. So that part was very, very hard. Again, I was so thankful that we were wearing masks, because at this point, when I thought about my kids, that I wasn't going to be at their weddings, that crushed me. And then it was like, okay, well, so what do we do now? You know, and it just felt like this is a weird analogy, but I felt like somebody, you remember in school when you used to have like a straw and you would spit paper wads at people, and they would just like, you just sit there and just hit people with them.
Yeah.
I felt like I was having paper wads just spit at me like boom, 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 boom. Like I don't know. It's like I felt like I had been punched and didn't know how to react. I remember Glenn reaching over and getting my hand. And what?
That was a bad decision.
And then it was like, okay, well, I need to get out of here. I can't breathe. I need to get out of here. And we got in the car, started driving home, probably 10 minutes to our house. Just that 10 minutes was probably the worst 10 minutes in our marriage. Just the raw emotion in the car, the crying, the yelling. It was just unbearable. And then, so I will tell you this is so cool. I want to read something to you. So everybody knew I was going to get my diagnosis that day, and people were texting me. My phone's going off, but I'm not checking it. And I have it laying between my legs, and I can feel it vibrating. And I'm like, I can't do this. And we pulled up in our garage, and we sat there for a while. And then when I got to the point where I could just look at my phone, the first thing I saw was from something that a friend from the gym had sent me. And this is not like a close friend at all, but she sent me something, and it said, Lord, give me strength in my weakness. Give me faith in my fear. Give me power in my powerlessness. I'm trusting you. Amen. And when I read it, of course, I'm already crying. I lose it even more because I felt like, I know I give a lot of analogies, but I love the Hunger Games movies, and I love the part where they always have something going on, and just at the right time, it would be like dun dun dun, and the music would come in, and then they would send in exactly what they needed, whether it was a salve for, they had gotten stung by the bees or whatever. What my friend sent me was that. It was salve for me, for my soul, for what I was going through right then. I mean, it was like what she wrote, give me strength, give me power, give me faith, everything that I needed. It was like, I didn't know this lady that well, and she sent that, and I was like, God sent that. He sent that to me as salve to help me deal with this. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about how you were feeling? I'm sorry, I talked too much.
No, you're
perfect.
doing great.
It's your story.
So,
yes.
Beautiful story. And the way you tell it is just powerful.
It is. You're
so powerful.
Really good at telling this.
Glenn, I'd like to understand how you were feeling from an emotional standpoint, because and what eventually, however you were feeling, what got you out of it to where you could move forward with being who you knew you had to be.
So I think, like, going into it, I had already decided in my mind that it was going to be GBM. I had talked with Kelly and like kind of said, okay, if it is what it is, what are we going to do? And so like the shock of hearing the number was hard to hear, but still I'm thinking, how do I help Laura through this? Like, the car ride home was the first time I can think of from this moment that I heard it to that point that I started to think about, like, well, what would my life be like? Like, if my wife's going to pass away in 18 months, like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be single. Like, we're just entering into the right stage. Like, our kids are in college, and like, we're about to be able to go do life together. Like we love being around each other and having fun. And I'd been, I think for years and years and years, as much as I love my children, I've looked forward to just Laura and me, just having our time together, just doing whatever. And so like, I was seeing this dream in that moment driving home. I can just remember like Laura saying something like, I don't want to not do this. I don't want to not be with you for life. Like I want to, like we're supposed to be on the porch drinking lemonade together, you know, like, and she made those comments and I'm like, well, heck, I don't want to not like have you by my side for all this. So that was the first time like I let myself feel just this enormous sense of potential loss. Like I just could not even fathom. I think it was really probably the first time like I broke down at like just allowed myself emotionally just to let go.
I get that. Yeah, you allowed yourself to yourself to enter the equation of your mind, right?
Yeah. Because
now it's real.
Yeah, like I've been
now
told.
Now it has a name.
Yeah. And even right from the start, like I knew, okay, numbers are man's. God's doesn't work in our number system. He never has. And so like that was like I wasn't worried about the time. It was I like got out of that. Like, okay, you had that moment. And then I started thinking immediately, well, let's make this the best, like whatever we got to do to make it the best possible time. If she has 18 months or we end up with 20 years, like this shift kind of went on to just say, all right, we're going to make it the best. We're going to do everything we can do to like, so my mentality was more from that moment. Like I broke down and I can remember going in like I had to call, we had to talk to kids, had to talk to my parents. We had to talk to her family, which we didn't do right away. There were all these like dynamics that we had to just manage through. And I think you just, I don't know, I can't even recall like after that moment of walking in the house, like another emotion where like I've had my moments where I worry about what the future might look like, but I don't recall it being an extended period of time. It's almost like once I stepped over the threshold to go back into the home and after getting out of the car, it was like, okay, I'm back in go mode. Like I don't give myself time to like worry or like I do worry and I find myself anxiety. Sometimes I'm like, man, I must be depressed. Something's going on. But yeah, you just don't have time to stop and think about that. I just haven't been able to, you know, like because it's not, I mean, cause I think about it like this, like if Laura had a short period of time, well, then I want that to be the best short period of time she's ever had. If she ends up with a 25 year, 30 year, you know, we do get to drink lemonade on the porch together, then man, like we had this moment, it entered into our life, and then we took a different perspective for the rest of our life, no matter how long that is. And so like we have an unbelievable opportunity in front of us, no matter what, because of that. And I think that's what has sustained me. And I think that like I just went back into go mode and I didn't go into worrying. Like I had to figure out like, now I got meal plans. Now people are bringing us meals. Like my daughter and I, Ellie and I went, she was unbelievable. Ellie's like so gifted with like organization. And so she designed a notebook and a system. Like now I got to pay the bills. I've never paid the bills. Laura's pays the bills. Like there's all these little things. And Ellie was like, all right, let's sit down. We're going to get organized. I'm going to let you operate in your gifting. Let me operate in my gifting. So Ellie and I tag teamed that. Just managed it.
What was it like telling the kids?
Oof.
Did y'all tell them after you left the garage? Were they inside?
They were at
school.
No, Ellie was at school and Will was at Georgia. So, we just,
when we got home, I went to bed because I was drained. And still, it hadn't been that long since my surgery. Yeah. So I was tired. And then when I woke up, she had gotten home from school and I will never forget her face. And you know, they painted a very, very bleak picture for me. And so my thought was, am I going to fight this? Am I going to go through all of this if I'm just going to die? I mean, why am I going to go through all that if it's inevitable that I'm going to die? And so I remember telling Ellie, we don't know what the next plans are, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, I have to be honest with you. I don't know if I do not want you all to see me in bad shape. With brain cancer, I don't want to go crazy. I don't want y'all to see me like this. So I don't know what I'm going to do. And she looked at me with these horrified eyes, like, how could you not fight this? How could you not fight like I was just giving up? And I said, Ellie, I'll tell you, I'm not going to give up if they tell me there's a chance that doing this is going to help. But if it's not, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do that to y'all. I don't want y'all to see that. And I think it was maybe the next day we had an appointment with Dr. Dillman, the oncologist, and Ellie went with us, and she painted a picture of hope for us. And I think that helped Ellie. It really helped all of us because we didn't feel like there was any hope when we left. But then when we went to see the oncologist, she's like, yeah, I have a patient that's 11 years into this. And it's like, oh, okay, well, let's do this thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Literally, whoever that patient was that was 11 years in was all we needed to hear. It's like,
and so when you talk about if you can help one person, I'm like, yeah, because I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that person, and that was the hope that I needed.
Yeah.
And then there was another lady who found out about me. She lived in
Augusta,
and she was 3 years into it, and she called me, and then there was a man who was 72 who was like 18 years into it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, now we got something to work with. And so whenever I would have my bad days and start thinking, okay, this is really bad, I would just be like, nope, think about these other people that have made it and are still going. So
What did those, when you say bad days, like, are we talking like treatment? Like once you, did
No.
you?
No, I will say physically, I've been great. Mentally has been the biggest battle for me. So when I have a bad day, I say it's a mental battle.
Usually always is.
Yeah, it was the worst part of it. Physically, like even during chemo and radiation, I went to the gym every day. And I never felt like not going. There was one day that I didn't feel great, and I got to the gym. I told Jeff, I was like, I'm just not feeling that great right now. And he's like, I said, but I do not want this thing to win. If I don't do it, if I go home, then that means this thing has won, and I'm not going to let it win. And he's like, get on the rower, just row, do that, and tell me what to do. And I was like, okay. Because then in my mind, I did something, and I didn't let it win that day. But so a bad day is when it's weird how Satan attacks me, because it's usually through when I'm looking for something positive. Like if I think, okay, I'm going to read this person's story that has survived it for 5 years. Okay, I'm going to read it. I'm going to be encouraged, or I'm going to listen to this podcast of this pastor who had a brain tumor, and I'm going to be encouraged by it. So I feel like I'm doing the right things, trying to, be positive. But this is what I've learned, whenever you're reading somebody's story, the bad stuff is at the beginning and the good stuff is at the end. So I always start reading at the beginning, because that's where you read. So I start reading it, and they start telling their story, and it's always, GBM is this. Here's the statistics. People don't live past the, it's just horrible stuff that you read. I already know all that, but then it just gets in my head, and then it spirals. And then I take their story to be my story. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, get away from that. So that's usually what it is. It's usually something that I've, a little fact. I was following on Instagram, like, again, for encouragement, like the GBM Foundation or something. And, they would post some little fact or something, or stories about people, and I would get on there and I would read it, and again, I would spiral. And so I'm like, I had to unfollow them. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm trying to do it for something positive, and it's destroying me. You know, after I would do that, I would start planning my funeral. So I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So those are the bad days, like going to our friends' children's funerals. I mean, that was bad. No, going to their weddings, you know, very, very hard for me to sit there and watch, you know, them as a couple watch their child dance and sitting there, and I leave and I cry because I'm like, I'm not going to get that, you know. But that's what I would have said before. I'm not necessarily saying that now, but those are the feelings, and that's what makes me have bad days.
So the chemo, you did chemo radiation with an oncologist for how long?
The radiation was 6 weeks, and I had to take chemo at the same time that I was doing it. The chemo I had to take was oral, so it was just pills that I took at home at night. So, and then I had a month off, and then I started chemo again, and I would do it 5 days on, 25 days off, and they would increase the doses every month. It would get stronger. And
She had to wear.
And then I had to wear a device called Optune, and I told myself I was not going to call it stupid because it could be helping save my life, but I did not enjoy it. It was a little bit traumatic for me. It required me to shave my head, and I had to shave it every couple of days, and then I would put these electrodes on my head that were attached to this battery pack I had in a backpack that I had to wear, and I always tried to find a hat to cover it up, and it was I don't know, it was very hard. It just
Had like a 4-foot tether in the back, so like these 4 pads that she had to wear on her head all had wires on them. Had to braid them together.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of that? What was
So
that?
it's like it's supposed to have, it shoots like magnetic or electrodes through her brain. It's supposed to confuse the cancer cells to keep them from being able to regrow. And so the studies say that if you wear this for the 6 months that you're doing chemo, then it increases your like survival rate by like 5 to 10% over what the statistics say. And so it's kind of it's the first new treatment for GBM in over 30 years.
Wow.
Because the type of cancer, because the survival rates are so low, it doesn't get a lot of investment money for research. And so there's very little that's going into it to help people live longer with it, because so few people have that opportunity.
Well, I have to. I know Biscuit doesn't like me doing this, but I have to go back and point out something, because Laura just gave you a masterclass in the most essential thing that you've got to seek, the most essential thing that you've got to have in order to get through this life, and that is the will to fight. You have got to have the will to fight. And if you can't find that within yourself, you need to seek something or someone that's going to help instill that in you. And you need to cut out everything else that's doing the opposite or eroding away at your will to fight. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, look, in SEAL training, they would beat me. I literally had an instructor one time lift me up off the ground by the collar of my uniform. This guy was about 6'4", and body slam me into the sand in front of all of my peers, right? And it literally concussed me. And finally, when I realized what just happened, I just got humiliated, right? He was looking for one thing. Would I find the will to fight within myself? Would I just choose to get back up? Simply get back up. Nothing else. That's all he was looking for. And Laura just put it in such a beautiful way, because we are all going to find and come to moments in our life at some point, I guarantee you, where you don't have the will to fight within you. You just can't find it. Well, guess what? I guarantee you there's somebody around you that can help you with that can give you encouragement. And if you're that person and you see someone that is in that place where they just don't know if it's worth it to just get back up and just take a single step, give them a word of encouragement, man. It ain't got to be a dissertation. Just tell them there's hope. I don't know.
Yeah, and so much, like, it's being willing to just come alongside somebody. And where I know I'm like fired up.
Laura just did her face like, yeah.
And it's not, and it's because
it's essential, man.
It is. And something that's hit us a lot in this process is, and we alluded to it earlier, but it didn't just happen the day we found out about the diagnosis. Like, we didn't all of a sudden figure out, like, oh gosh, like, we got to turn to our friends. We got to turn to the Lord. We got to do whatever it is you got to do. Like, it's in the midst of, like, all the mundane of life where you continue with the same habits. You get up every morning and you get in the Word. You do the things you're supposed to do, so that when you don't know that you're prepping for a hard time, but they're coming. There's something coming no matter what. Like, we didn't know on the 13th of August that we were going to be facing this, but we also didn't wake up on the 13th of August saying, man, well, if something ever did happen, I hope we could figure it out. Like, we're never on our own in this process. We're not saying that, like, we figured out how to manage it, but we've been prepping for this our entire lives. Like, even before I was a believer, like, things that I'd gone through, I can see now where the Lord was using those things to prep us for, like, parts of my personality and parts of my skill set that God was developing so that I could be ready in the time of trial. And, this isn't it's our first personal, like, life or death struggle, but it's not the first time we've walked through it with us or other people. Like, this is just, we're just doing what we know to do because we've been practicing it all along. And you can't wait. You can't just think, oh man, when the times get tough, I'm just going to figure it out.
Right.
It don't
You're
work
not
that way.
figuring it out.
No.
Yeah. So
No.
don't be that person.
And you know what's even worse than that, Glenn, is there's a lot of people that are walking around that don't believe times are going to get tough, right? How many of us go through life living like we get to do this forever? I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of wasting an entire day because I think I got plenty more of these things. No.
Yeah. You just
What I mean, just, and you hit on it earlier, Glenn, a little bit about just the way your perspective and Laura's perspective on life has shifted. And whether it's 20 years or 1 year, who cares about the numbers? You have a beautiful opportunity now in front of you to live as a husband and wife the way we should all be living.
Yeah, it's...
Sorry, man. You guys need to be motivational speakers.
You're about to blow my headphones
I know.
out.
I'm sorry.
I'm having to take them off when you start.
All right, I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get
stop.
unfired up.
Just
go
stop
ahead,
talking
Biscuit.
for a second. So I have a lot of follow-up questions about lifestyle and prayer and the things, but I honestly don't know. Is that the end of this story? Like, where we just kind of landed, like, now, like, what's going on now? Like, where are you at in all of this? And
so now, oh gosh, where do we?
I mean, really, we live scan to scan. Like, so there's never a time when at least as far as we've been told. Some of the doctors said we go to UAB. That's the where our neurologist is at UAB, or neuro-oncologist or whatever they call him. But with the first meeting we were in there, he said, you need to know that this type of cancer is uncurable by mankind. He didn't say anything else. He just looked us in the eye and he said, I need you to know that there is no cure for this cancer by man. So we obviously knew that, like, that he was saying is, man, there's no cure for a man, but God can handle this. Like, God will this will either work because God wants it to, or it won't work because God wants it to.
And they had put me in a bubble because of COVID, and
like
didn't
locally,
want me to work. Didn't, one of my doctors actually told me I could not work out because he said your body needs all the energy to try to heal. And I'm like, if you take working out away from me, then you're taking away who I am.
Yeah.
If you take my job away from me, you take away who I am. And the doctor at UAB said, my job is to keep you yourself as long as you're here.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I want to go back to work. And he was like, okay, maybe because they told me I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. And because they were afraid I was going to have seizures. I had not had any seizures, but they were afraid that I could because of the radiation anytime you're messing with the brain. And so I said, I want to go back to work. And he said, okay, maybe after you get off the medicine or something. And I said, no, I'm talking about tomorrow.
Good for you.
this is
And
the
he-
first appointment we had with him.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, she's like already putting demands out. I go in stressed. I'm like, I'm so nervous about the question she's going to ask. She's just like, I'm going back to work
Well,
yeah.
you know what?
yeah.
He said yes.
He did.
And I went back to work the
the
next
next
day.
day, and has
I've
not
been-
missed a day ever.
I've
not
not missed
one
a day since.
other than because she's felt sick. We've had to miss for doctor's appointments or other things, but she has never missed a day of work from the day he said she could go back in.
And
So when
you-
you're talking about having the will to fight, the will to live, and just to take the next step, and I think that's what I want to encourage people to do, because I didn't tell this part of the story, but for radiation, you have to wear this mask. And I know that it's probably nothing for most people, but for me, it was very bad. When they made it, it just is this mesh, but it's hard plastic, and it covers your face, and you have it clips down to the table behind you. And so you don't move, and like it's all covered. And when they were making it, I freaked out. And then I went back for the first day of radiation and had it done. And it was very traumatic for me. And I had an appointment with the doctor right after, and he said, well, how was it? And I was like, it was very bad. And so they said I said, I just felt like I couldn't breathe. And so they cut out around the mouth. And then that way I could at least move my lips a little bit. I could feel like I was breathing. And that was a game changer, and it was much better. But the part I didn't tell you is, so one of my biggest fears ever, when I talk about going back and looking at my journal, when I look back at it, one of my biggest fears was losing one of my parents. They live in Tennessee, and I was just always so afraid that I was going to lose a parent. And 3 weeks after my diagnosis, my brother called and said that my dad had a mild stroke. Ended up that it was an aneurysm, and he ended up passing away in just a few days. And so I had called the doctors at the radiation and said, okay, because I had to go every day. I had to go 5 days a week to get radiation. And so I said, I'm going to need to be in Tennessee. And they're like, you can't really miss. I mean, you can, but if you have to. But if there's any way you can be here, you need to be here. And I'm like, I knew that my daddy would want me to go take care of myself. I knew he would want me to do that. But it was hard to leave my mom. And so I would go into radiation and lay on that table with that mask smothering me every day with tears rolling down. I don't know if I ever got through one without crying, thinking about my daddy or thinking about my life, because, I mean, it didn't take long and the radiation didn't hurt. I mean, it lasted less than 5 minutes that I was laying there. It's a long time when it's just you and your thoughts.
Yeah.
And you got nothing. You are faced, you are faced with everything that's going on in your life. And so, but when I went through it with the first day that the mask, I felt like it was smothering me. I remember going in the next day and I was like, I was so mad when I got home that I had responded that way, that I was like being a crybaby. And the next day I was like, it is not going to win today. This thing is not going to beat me. It's a mask. Laura, get yourself together. I do a lot of self-talking now. And so I was like, get yourself together and go in there. It's just a stupid mask. You can do this. And so, yeah, the hard things you can't control, but it's like, you just got to do it. You got to go. It's going to save you in the long run, and just suck it up and do it. You know?
I can remember that day, the second day, and she was so mad that she had not won the day before. Like she did, but she was just like, she was irate. And I can remember driving, because I would have to pick her up. I jokingly said I would drive Miss Daisy around everywhere. And I went and picked her up at work. We get there and she's like, it is not winning today. And I could not have been more fired up. I was like the things that I've seen in her that like make me fall like deeper in love every day. Like it's insane. Like you're just like, oh, I love her. Oh no, I love her even more. Like it's just because those qualities of like a warrior that she shows every single day just blow my mind. And that was one of those moments. And in fact, I remember she went in and they had given like space for her mouth to be able to breathe. And there was like, she would never say this, but in my mind, I was almost like, she came out, she's like, oh, they had made a hole for it. And I was like, and you were probably a little bit mad because it was like, I was going to win. But then that hole was there so I could breathe. So I didn't really have the chance to win the way I wanted to win. But yeah, she was so fired up that day. I was like, this is freaking awesome. Like to get to watch your wife do that. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
You know what comes along with choosing to fight? What comes along with that? You're going to get knocked down sometimes, right? You're going to lose sometimes, right? That's part of the choice. You know what? Somebody that chooses not to get back up, they don't have to worry about getting knocked down again. That's what's easy about staying on your back. That's what's so enticing about quitting. The fact that you get knocked down every now and then is evidence that you're still on your feet, that you're still going, man.
There was one workout that we did one day, and it was toward the end of a cycle of chemo, so I had to take it for 5 days. Usually the 5th day, 6th day, I didn't feel great, but I was doing the workout, and I felt fine until I didn't feel fine. You know how that kind of happens, and I was like, okay, just finish. Quitting is not an option. Finish. Even though it might be slow, just finish. And so I remember when I finished, I sat down and I started crying, which I've only done that from a workout one other time. It's when I did my first 10K. I'm sorry, I know that's nothing to you. But when I finished it, my body just responded. I don't know why I cried, but I just did. And I don't know why I was crying this day at the gym, but I just sat down and just started crying. And I was like wiping my eyes, trying to let nobody see, hoping they didn't see me. And the sweetest guy came over to me. He saw me, and he came over, and he said, hey, Laura, he said, can I help you put all your stuff up? And I was like, yes, please. And so he was just so kind to me and just so caring. And then he put everything up, and, I sent him a text later. I'm like, I'm so appreciative of you. And, I'd never seen that side of him before, but it was just a cool way to get to see him in a different way. And it was just cool. But, that was the only day that I did that for whatever reason. And, yeah, I felt weak in the moment, but I went back the next day. So
what's the roller coaster of living scan to scan? Have you guys been able to adapt to that emotion, or is that just something you have to learn to deal with?
Just deal with it.
It's awful.
Yeah, it sucks.
How often are they?
In the beginning, they were every 2 months, and then once they were clear, now they're every 3 months. So I don't take any more treatments anymore.
Fantastic.
I'm done.
No
and
meds, nothing.
So now it's living on faith. So the scans are getting a little bit, the time in between is getting a little bit easier. We thought that going every 3 months would be better because, you don't have to go through that. But then I told Glenn, I almost feel like if you went like every 2 months at least, then everything's okay or not. But it's hard. It used to creep up on me. Like sometimes I feel like I'm off and I'm agitated, and then I'm like, oh, I got a scan coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be like 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time I would start freaking out. Then it went to like every week. This last time it was probably a couple days before.
So it's getting better.
It's getting better.
It's hard to come off of it because your body starts to adjust to living with anxiety.
I can't imagine.
So like, I feel like I'm at my worst, like for the next like 2 or 3 days after a scan. Like, so the first, I'm nervous before, get anxious, and then just letting your body start to recover from the worry that you had. That's probably been so for me, like the 2 or 3 days after, even though we had just got great news. And so in the moment, we usually can walk away. If they tell us quickly, this past time we waited an hour and 15 minutes. So we thought we had the scan, got in the office and sat in the office for an hour and 15 minutes. And that was excruciating because we didn't tell each other, but we were probably going through every possible bad scenario that could have happened.
Yeah.
And then he came in and he was like, sorry, we were backed up today. Scan looks great.
Oh my gosh.
You're good. See you in 3 months. Like literally we saw him for less than a minute and a half, and he was great. But
and I walked out and we got in the waiting room and I said, I need a minute. And we sat down and my body just released everything. It was just terrible. I felt bad because at UAB, everybody there is so sick. Ugh. And I'm sitting there crying because I got good news. But anyway,
Okay, you can't look at it that way.
Oh yeah.
No.
She has some thoughts sometimes. I'm like, girl, like you're okay. Give yourself a little bit of license
Absolutely.
to be human. It's okay.
Yeah.
I keep going back to the fact that like I feel like we grazed over and didn't stop on the fact that during chemo radiation and having a huge mass taken out, like you still did
and
cross.
my dad died.
And your dad died. You still worked out. Like, I want to know why that's so important to you. And like, where did you find most people who are going through chemo and radiation don't do anything. They stay at home.
Well, they're told not to.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I think it's a will thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they have I
don't know. I've tried to figure that out. I don't understand how when people get a diagnosis, how they just stop. I don't know. That's just not my personality. I mean, I literally felt fine, except toward the end of the chemo cycles, I didn't feel great. But for me, working out makes me feel good. Like when I'm done, I feel better. It helps me deal with my anxiety, and we have our little systems. Like before every scan, we go in on those mornings and we do a workout with some of our friends, and it just helps me feel like, okay, I've been around my people, I've dealt with my anxiety physically, now I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So
We even change the scan times if they try to get us there too early because we just want to be in our routine. Yeah. It's so when they told Laura she couldn't work out, she couldn't work. She asked the doctor, I want to work. He's like, you can work. Next day she's working. So like she had to wait like 30 days after her surgery before she'd go back to to working out. But she went to that same doctor. She's like, I want to work out. He's like, work out. Like my job is to make you be Laura. Go work out. A couple of months later, she starts telling me, I want to do handstand push-ups. I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, can you just like, I'm more worried about what she's going to ask the doctor when we go in that room. And so she's looking at him. And so he tells us all this stuff. And then she's like, I got a question for you. And I'm like, my stomach's in knots. Like this guy's going to think she is nuts. And he's like, you know what? She says, you know what handstand push-ups are? And he's like, I mean, I guess like where you like get up in a handstand and like lower your head. And she's like, yeah. He's like, she goes, I want to do those again. I'm really good at them. I want to do them again. He's like, well, okay, yeah, do handstand push-ups. It's not gonna make your cancer grow back. So if you feel good, the very next day, she's in the room, and she's doing handstand push-ups and hasn't missed a workout. If there's handstand push-ups in a workout, I guarantee you Laura Getchell's going to be there doing handstand push-ups.
That is epic.
Yeah. So I always say, like, you're probably the only person in the history of the world that has GBM that's doing handstand push-ups.
Oh,
And I'm
probably for real.
like, yeah.
What about y'all's marriage? Has that been a big shift, or have you, like you said, you've maintained some of the same habits and routines that got you through before, but like, has that dynamic changed a lot?
I don't feel like it has because of my diagnosis. I feel like it's different with both of the kids being gone. I mean, we still have Hamza there, but it's just different when your focus is all about the kids and it's not. But the diagnosis stuff, I feel like we're still just Glenn and Laura going along.
Well, and I feel like Glenn hit on that in a powerful way earlier when he said the opportunity to see Laura be the person she is being has made him fall deeper in love with who she is than he could have ever before. But
I will tell you, I am strong because it's happening to me. If this was happening to him or one of my family members, like one of my children, I would probably be in bed under the covers.
And then I hear that
when
a
it's
lot.
just me, it's like, oh, whatever happens. It's just me. But if it was one of them, I would not be this way.
Yeah.
And I hear that, and I always think back and say, well, I would have thought before I was sitting in the side of the caregiver role, if this ever happened to my wife or happened to one of my children, I wouldn't be able to handle it. But just like the Lord gives her every next step, he's doing the same thing for me. So like when people come up to me and they say, oh man, I'm dealing with this problem. And they're like, oh, that's nothing compared to your problem. I'm like, look, your problem is your problem at that very moment. I don't care if it's something, I jokingly say, I don't care if it's a hangnail. Like if that hangnail's driving you nuts, that's your problem. Let's figure out how to handle it. Let's get through it that day, because what we're going through may seem really large to a lot of people, but it's just what we're going through. And so, it's not like, so for me, I wouldn't have thought I could handle it, but then I never want Laura to be going through this. And Laura's even said this before to people, like if the connection that she now has with the Lord because of what she's going through, in some way, we wish everybody could feel this. We just don't want to have to get GBM or something else to get there. But she wouldn't take back. I mean, I guess you would take back the diagnosis. Like if we could figure out a way to do it differently, but it's just not the way the Lord worsome so, yeah.
I've definitely seen the Lord completely different. And I had some more things I had written down. But like when you talk about encouraging people, the thing that I have thought about the whole time that before coming into this is about God providing, always providing. I'm like, okay, that's the one thing I'm supposed to get out on this podcast is about how God provides. So here comes another story. But
well, no, this is perfect. This is what I wanted to land the plane on.
Yeah.
I
think this is it.
The meat, the faith, right?
Yeah.
So, when I had the surgery and I was in the hospital, I woke up and one of my friends was there that worked in the hospital, and I said, the Lord just serenaded me with a song, a Carrie Job song called I Am Not Alone. And I woke up, I know that was playing over and over in my mind while I was sleeping. God telling me, you are not alone. And I am always here with you. And so when I went into radiation and I laid on that table and I was strapped down by that mask, I asked him, can you please play Carrie Job? Can you play her station on Pandora? And, the blessing and all those songs just kept coming up. And, it's what carried me through those times. When I would do Optune and I get in the shower and scrub my bald head and, that's the music I was playing. And so I feel like the Lord always was giving me messages through this music. And there was one night, it was getting closer to a scan, and I had written about this for, there's a magazine called Voices Over Cancer that William James does for Summit Quest, and he asked me to write for it. And right before I wrote for it, I had this thing happen, and so this is what I wrote about. So I was, when you ask about a bad day, it was a bad day. Something had made me spiral, and in my head, I was dying soon. And I was crying uncontrollably. Glenn was asleep, and I didn't want to wake him up. And so I just laid there praying. And I was like, Lord, can you please just come hold me and sing to me, serenade me like you did that night in the hospital room. And just sobbing, that was my prayer over and over. Please just hold me and sing to me. And then a little while later, I just kind of wake up. I'm kind of in that in-between stage, but I'm kind of out of it. And I hear the song Jireh is playing in my head. And I remember waking up thinking, I've heard this song so many times before, but what does it mean? So I got up the next day. I was like, I need to remember. When I get up tomorrow, I need to study what Jireh is. I need to look at those lyrics of that song. And so I started reading the lyrics, and it was just crazy, whenever I found out that it meant the Lord will provide. And I'm like, I prayed for a need. I prayed for the Lord to hold me. I prayed for the Lord to sing to me. And I hear that song being sung to me, and I'm in just peace, just perfect peace that, like, I didn't really feel that. And, like, I've felt it before, but just during this time, I feel like God has not one time left me. Like, when you say I'm on a mission, it's like God is just carrying me through all this. I don't know how people get through crisis without the Lord. I have no idea. But then I was like, well, I want to know about Jireh. And so I started looking up all the places in the Bible where God's referred to as Jireh. And, it's like Abraham, when he was going to sacrifice Isaac, and the Lord provided an animal so he didn't have to sacrifice his son. And then, whenever they were in Exodus, when the people were out, they didn't have any food, and God provided manna, just at the right time. It's kind of going back to the Hunger Games. It's like, whatever you need, here it is. It just drops down. The Lord always provides. And then the last thing that I had was a friend of mine had given me a hat that said "Seen" on it, SEEN. And I remember so many times looking in the mirror at my bald head and just saying, God, do you even see me? And then looking up that one of God's names is Elroy. I see you. And then whenever he talks about Jireh, the God who provides. And then the last one was
Rapha.
Yeah. So the God who heals. So through this time, the three different names of God, it's like I have experienced each one every step that I've been going through. So the God who provides, the God who sees, and the God who heals. So I can't say, like, one of my biggest struggles when I tell my story, do I say I have cancer or do I say I had cancer? I don't know. I don't know what to say. my doctor is very adamant every time we're there. He says, yeah, everything looks good, but you know the nature of this, that it, you know, it can come back, which we're like, yes, we're well aware of that. But that's where we are now. That's my story.
You know, that's you laying that out tops the answer, any question that I could have asked. You know, what that made me think about, and especially when you talk about Jehovah Jireh, the God that provides. How does God provide? How does God provide? How does he promise that he will provide? He only promises that he will provide your daily provision. That's it. He doesn't make any promises of provision that I know of beyond that. Your daily provision. And I don't know, Laura, you just made you stated that question of when you tell your story, what am I supposed to say? And your daily provision is being met. That was powerful, man. I'll just stop there because I got to process that. Well,
yeah, so now my question is, I feel like, what am I supposed, it's hard for me to call it a miracle because I don't know if this is going to come back next month. I mean, I don't know. But, I have beaten the odds now. I was given 18 months now that I'm at the upper end of it. It's scary because, now I'm at 19 months and I've made it this far. So I don't know if it's a miracle yet, but I feel like
who you are is the miracle.
Amen to that.
It's just not. Yeah. It's not that. It's just who you are. That's my perspective on it.
I wanted to ask you both, and I feel like you kind of just answered it. So you might say, but like, I feel like there was so many amazing things you guys talked about that people could take. And like you said, with any problem, whether it be a hangnail, and like, if you're speaking to thousands of people, trying to tell them some of the main things that have helped you the most to get through this time for both of you, like, do y'all have something that, jumps out at your mind?
Yeah, for me, when I was going through this, I didn't want people just to tell me what they thought or whatever. I wanted truth. And so I asked specifically for people to send me scriptures. And that was my lifeline.
That's really cool. Like friends and just people that want to support you.
Yeah, just if I would write stuff because I type a lot, I'd rather do that than this. I like being behind the scenes. But yeah, or if people would say, "What do you need?" I'm like, "Please just send me scripture. Send me your favorite Bible verses or whatever." And so when they would come in when I needed them. When you say God gives you your daily provision, it's like, yeah, like minute to minute.
Come on.
Yeah.
What about you, Glenn?
I think my coping mechanism has been consistency, just trying to be like, not let myself get out of routine, not let myself get out of the word, not let myself don't let Satan tell me lies. So the more I can stay in the word, the more I can stay committed to living out my faith, that drives me. Like I get up in the morning and like usually an hour or two before Laura, and like I try to I'll kneel by the bed and just like pray over her in the morning, and I'm like in that minute I see like her humanity, her fragility, all those things, and so in that moment, like I'm empowered to just like in my own way, like I'm fighting for her, but like I guess theoretically, like how I fight doesn't like change a cell in her body, like I can't fix that, but I can do the things that I know I have control over to put it in the Lord's hands, and then just try the best I can to just be super consistent with that. And so I think for me, it's just it's consistency. And then like I get battled. Like, so for me, what's interesting is I love CrossFit, but man, like that's what Satan's trying to take away from me. Like he doesn't, like the joy that I have isn't as much the workout as it is the people and the social side and everything. And by the time I end of my day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just been giving in to all the people that I work with. Now I got to walk in the gym and I don't want to be there. Like, I don't want to, like, you'll see me sometimes I'll just walk in and go right to the back room and just get on a rower and just say, all right, punish yourself on this rower, but don't be around anybody. And so like Satan tries to take that away from me. So I have to like fight the urge to kind of wallow in this mess that we're in and just try, like, be consistent, show up at the gym every day. I've told my buddies, like, do not let me walk in this building and walk out without having exercise. I don't care if you strap me to a machine, but do not let me cave to that desire. So consistency, namely with the Lord, but then in my habits that's been really important for me.
I feel like he gets left out of it a lot. Like, you know, everybody thinks, you know, it's happening to me. And so, you know, a lot of people reach out to me, but, you know, he's like, yeah, I don't get that so much anymore. And so I feel like, you know, it's probably harder on him, but I think that he kind of gets forgotten about.
That leads into and I'm going to stop. I know you guys have to be at a meeting in a little bit, but like, what is the right? I've known people with really hard diagnosis or like people who are sick or going through hard things. What is helpful? Like what, you know, like I'm even awkward. I don't know what to say.
I will tell you what not to say.
Okay.
So when you said that, I started laughing because there's this thing that people do, and I've named it the pity tilt.
What?
All right, I'm going to show you. So people will see me. They come up to me. Oh, hey, you know, how are the kids? How's Glenn? And then like that, it changes. So, and I can feel it coming. I know when it changes. So they
I'm hoping I didn't do this.
So they sit there, they look at me, and they're like, how's everything going? And then they stop, and then they turn their head like this, and they go, how are you? Or how are you feeling? How are you feeling? That question I cannot handle because it's loaded. I'm like, I always have to say, well, you know, physically I feel great. Mentally I'm a mess because there were days, this is my other analogy, I feel like I'm in 1,000 pieces. Like I'm a sheet of paper that's been ripped up in 1,000 pieces, and somebody's used Scotch tape to put me back together. Not even duct tape, Scotch tape. And if you pull one little piece, it's all going to fall out. It's all going to fall apart, and I'm not going to be able to get myself back together. So do not do the pity tilt. Don't turn your head and look at them like, I feel so sorry for you. And then, I don't know, other people may want to be asked how they're feeling, but it's, how are you feeling? That's so hard for me because it's loaded. It's like, You really want to know how I'm feeling? I'm pissed right now.
I was about to say, in that moment, you probably wish you cursed.
Yeah. Yeah. She may be cursing in her head.
Yeah.
I think I understand
That's
that.
Good
though.
word, man.
Yeah.
That's good word. And I got to go back to something because there's so many things in this that Laura said. She said, what did I want? I wanted truth. Thy word is truth. What she just said was such a powerful testimony to the word of God, that it is, in fact, the only source of truth that we have here on this earth. And what she just said, I've never heard it put that way. I wanted truth. So what do I want you to give me? I want you to give me the word of God. If you want to send me something, don't send me your opinions or your sorrow or any. Give me truth, man. Where do you find truth? You find truth in the word of God. And that's that, man. But yeah. Everything that I say outside the boundaries of that, I don't claim it as truth. It's my opinion. And it was just a powerful testimony of that. Well,
I think I have to pee.
yeah, I'm gonna have to go home and and think about all this and I'm just say a quick prayer for us real quick. So Heavenly Father, I thank you for my brother and sister here. And I thank you for the courage and the strength that you supplied, Lord Jesus, for us to all be able to sit down and listen to and more so tell this testimony, Lord Jesus. I pray that it would go forth into this world, Father, that it would not come back void, Lord Jesus. I pray that you'd put this in the hands of your children, your sons and daughters that need to hear it, Father, and that it would lift them up, Father. And Lord Jesus, we just glorify your name. We thank you for being our strength, Lord. We thank you for that daily provision that you give all of us, Lord. And Father, we just thank you for dying for us and giving us eternal life, Father, and giving us the ultimate hope that gives us each the will to fight. And Jesus Christ, it's in your mighty name that we pray and ask all of these things. Amen.
Amen. You're in trouble when you got to pee and it's Chad's turn to pray.
Man, I love you guys, man.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us. Yeah, it's
Enough,
great.
enough said.
Yeah.